Our second defense this afternoon is by Ms. Rachel Friddell, and this is her thesis statement. Engaging with the arts through education, starting at a young age, specifically creating art, is a necessity for forming the human person. Please welcome Rachel.
Almost every school day for the past 2 years, I walked down this hallway, through the kitchen, to the art room. During my time in upper school art, I've become very familiar with and comfortable in the art room. The white walls are covered in art demonstrations for lower school. In the corner is a drying rack that is usually filled with paintings. The acrylic paint and paintbrushes are on the shelf next to the sink. The paint-splattered curtains are open to let the sunlight shine onto the 2 long rows of tables where students from kindergarten to 12th grade sit to create throughout the day. When I walk in, I know exactly what I need to do. I fill the cup up with water, choose 1 or 2 paintbrushes to work with for the day, and then I grab the piece that I'm working on. The first few minutes of class are always filled with activity as everyone is wandering around, gathering the materials that they need and talking to friends that they don't normally get to see. Miss Littell opens class with a Hail Mary and the room quiets down as everyone gets to work. My experience in art class has been unlike my experience of any of my other classes. Instead of listening to lectures, doing lab work, or having seminar and discussions, the art room is a place of community and creativity. I know that in just my 2 years of art education at JPG, I've been formed in so many ways. As a student, an artist, a friend, and most importantly, a person on my path toward holiness. These are just some of the many fruits that art education produces. But unfortunately, many children in America are not able to have this kind of experience with the arts. The arts have become undervalued and neglected, which is detrimental to students. Engaging with the arts through education starting at a young age, and specifically creating art, is a necessity for forming the human person. The goal of education should be to help students develop spiritually, mentally, and physically. This is highlighted in the Catechism of the Catholic Church in their definition of education, which is, in a very special way, parents share in the office of sanctifying by seeing to the Christian education of their children. Education is about more than just sending a child to school to learn important things. Education must lead to the sanctification of the child, meaning it must form the child in all aspects of his life. This is echoed in Merriam-Webster's definition of education, which is to develop mentally, morally, or aesthetically, especially by instruction. For education to best form students mentally, physically, and spiritually, schools must have active engagement with the arts in their curriculum. Because of several changes to the public education system, the arts are being neglected and students are being robbed of the invaluable experience and benefits that art education provides. In 2001, the No Child Left Behind Act was passed, introducing significant changes in the curricula of public schools. It emphasized the importance of math and reading, leading to the neglect of the arts. Whenever budget cuts have to be made, the arts are the first to go. This lack of importance placed on the arts is detrimental to students and is preventing true education from happening. The Public School Review found that 90% of American children attend public elementary or secondary school. That's around 50 million students. Art plays an important role in the spiritual formation of students because it is a way for man to connect with the Creator. In Genesis, we see God create man in his image and likeness, and later endow him with the task of cultivating the earth. John Paul II says, "Through his artistic creativity, man appears more than ever in the image of God. The image of God is the mold into which man should seek to form his whole self. One way humans mold themselves into the image of God is through co-creation, which is man's act of creating art. By connecting humanity with divine creation, it leads to the more complete formation of the human person as the image of God, because he is imitating the act of the Creator. According to Plato, all artistic creation is a form of imitation. That which really exists is a type created by God. The concrete things man perceives in his existence are shadowy representations of this ideal type. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says, "The fine arts, but above all sacred art, of their nature are directed toward expressing in some way the infinite beauty of God in works made by human hands. Their dedication to the increase of God's praise and of His glory is more complete, the more exclusively they are devoted to turning men's minds more devoutly toward God. Art is a tool used by man to praise the divine creator. It can be used as a tool in the spiritual lives of all people, but the artist himself experiences a special relationship with God through co-creation. In February, I got permission to observe Miss Littell's kindergarten through 6th grade art classes with the purpose of experiencing and better understanding the progression and benefits of early art education. During this observation, the kindergartners were using paint and pencil erasers to create cherry trees. They were all so excited to learn about the process, and I could see their eyes light up when Miss Littell explained how to double load their erasers. Each child had his or her own approach, and all of their pieces looked different. But there was no comparison. There was only childlike delight. The Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University found that children's brains are built moment by moment as they interact with their environments. In the first few years of life, more than 1 million neural connections are formed each second, a pace never repeated again. The quality of a child's early experiences make a critical difference as their brains develop, providing either strong or weak foundations for learning, health, and behavior throughout life. These early neural connections lay the groundwork for the rest of a child's development, even into adulthood. Without engaging with the arts, children are at risk of being underdeveloped, something that could hurt them for the rest of their lives. Manipulating and experimenting with different materials through creating art helps to develop these neural connections. This helps improve cognitive skills, fine motor skills, and even math and language skills. Art provides children with opportunities for exploration and experimentation. Drawing shapes helps children to understand proportion and symmetry, things that are relevant even in my senior calculus class. Imitating the brushstrokes of Monet's Impression Sunrise helps children to develop fine motor skills. Creating art is also an avenue for growing in virtues, such as perseverance and humility. Because of the way that our brains work, children who are not actively creating art from a young age can miss out on important neural connections that will be hard to make later. The earlier art education is implemented, the better. Some other benefits of art education include improved cognitive, social, emotional, and multisensory skills, brain development, mastery, self-esteem, and creativity. The Torrance test of creative thinking found that students from schools with strong art programs showed evidence of expression of ideas and feelings, layered relationships, multiple vantage points, construction and organization of meaning, and focused perception. A strong mental development naturally leads to physical development. When someone, especially a child, has good mental health, they will have more control over their physical health, making them feel healthier. This can be clearly seen in the practice of art therapy. The American Art Therapy Association defines art therapy as a mental health profession that enriches the lives of individuals, families, and community through active art making, creative process, applied psychological theory, and human experience within a psychotherapeutic relationship. The most common forms of art therapy are visual art therapy, music engagement, creative writing, movement-based creative expression. Art therapy uses art to create important connections between mind and body, and it puts patients more in touch with their emotions, leading to better control, improved mindset and body image, and improved relationships. The effects of art therapy are also seen in the experience of art education. The connection between mind and body that art provides is extremely important for the early child development. Actively creating art and experiencing the creative process helps children to unite mind, body, and soul, which is the purpose and goal of education. While engaging with the arts can and should happen at home, the classroom is where a lot of students' formation happens. Relationships with friends, classmates, and teachers are important for development. In the classroom, teachers can provide environments where students can actively and freely create. This type of environment may not be readily available within the home setting or anywhere outside of school. If children do not actively create art when they are young, they can lose the confidence to create. Dr. Lindsay from the University of Wollongong found that around the age of 6, children start to look very critically at their own art and their own drawings, and that is the age at which many stop enjoying the experience of visual arts. While this statistic is unfortunate, it is also natural. The only way to combat it is to continue experiencing and creating art. While observing the JPG art classes, the majority of students said that they enjoyed making art. Although not all of them wanted to become professional artists, they were all more or less comfortable with their artistic capabilities. There was a bit more comparison and insecurity among the 5th and 6th graders, but that's to be expected given their age and maturity. A few weeks after my JPG observation, I was working on a themed art project with 5 to 12-year-olds during a retreat. These children came from many backgrounds, and most of them attended public school. The younger children acted similarly to their JPG counterparts, but it was among the 9 through 12-year-olds where I saw a difference. From this group, I heard a lot more judgment and negativity about their own art, and there was a lack of confidence when using watercolors. If these children had been given the time and tools to create early on in their education, they would have been more confident in their skills and would have been much prouder and happier with what they created. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes budget cuts have to be made. Since the art program is one of the first to be cut, school administration must make up for the lack of arts by creating an arts integrated curriculum. Arts integration is the inclusion of the arts into all areas and subjects of a school's curriculum. Teachers can be taught how to integrate the arts into their classroom and can use it as a tool to help students learn better. Arts integration requires students to engage with the material in a creative and cohesive way, thus helping them to understand the material better. While having an arts department in place is ideal, having an arts integrated curriculum provides all students with an opportunity to learn in a more personal way. My experience with the arts does not stop when I leave the art room for the day. Instead, the arts education that I have received has spilled over into many areas of my life. From sketching in Moncus Park on the weekend to painting on a mountain during senior pilgrimage, art continues to provide opportunities for me to encounter beauty by myself and with friends. But none of this would have happened without the foundation of arts education that I received when I was young. The arts play an important role in the development of children and their formation as people. The public school system, which oversees 90% of the education of children in the United States, has neglected the arts, thus neglecting the formation of their students. Without an art program or arts integrated curriculum, students are being robbed of something that makes them more fully human. If society is going to thrive, creativity and engagement with the arts must be encouraged and practiced. In the Gospel of Matthew, Christ says, "Let the little children come to me." Children have the unique disposition that allow them to easily delight in creation. When a child engages in the art-making process, he is nourishing his mind, body, and soul by exercising creativity, developing important motor and cognitive skills, and participating with God in the act of co-creation. Nourishing and developing the soul, mind, and body leads to a fully formed and healthy person, achieving the goal of Christian education. I cannot imagine what my own life would be like without arts education, and my desire is for everyone to be able to experience the benefits that engaging with the arts provide. Thank you.
Questions?
Mr. Gray?
Thank you for your presentation, Rachel. In raising several young daughters, they really love to paint and kind of create. We've made a space in the garage so it doesn't spill over and create choking hazards in the house. But in watching them, I found that especially my 8-year-old at this point has actually been able to see things even better than I could see them as an observer and in capturing them. So I wondered, in your own life, how has engagement with the arts nurtured your ability to see the world and also the people around you?
Thank you for your question. So, like your daughters, I was given arts education from an early age. I don't really remember like a time where I didn't have the tools to create the art that I wanted to. In terms of how I see the world, I think specifically like little details is something that I have received from arts education, and like looking not necessarily at the broad picture, but at the details and also the broad picture and how the details affect the broad picture. Also seeing like the small details about people have also, like that's how that relates to people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Alvarado?
Thank you, Rachel. I still remember your beautiful science journal from astronomy 4 years ago. Art can be a great way to instill values and to visualize those and invite others into. I'm wondering about some of the risks of art in the public school system, given that it opens the floor for artworks to put forth values such as homosexuality or transgenderism or other religious beliefs that might have things a little twisted. So I'm wondering about how to mitigate some of the risks that are associated with what could potentially be exposed to children if we open it up to the public schools, given all the competing beliefs.
Sure. That is an important thing to consider. I think one way to mitigate that would be to focus on the masters. One thing that I noticed during my art observation with Mrs. Littell was that she was, in all of her classes, she was using examples from people like Monet and Van Gogh to, provide her students with that base, and then they would try to recreate the techniques that they saw. So that's one way that I could see that being implemented kind of safely into the public school system.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Deacon Conk?
Thank you for your presentation. So I'm intrigued by your highlight of arts integration into a curriculum. I wonder if you could speak to how, if there is an arts department, or even better yet, if there's a full program at a school, is there still a need for an integration of art, let's say, into an entire curriculum or into a home? That art is not something that only happens at school, but also is something that happens in home as well. I guess my question is, how essential is this integration, even if you have funding and departments to do art in a given space on a school campus?
Yeah, so I would say it's really important because it not only provides students with opportunities to create art where they might not have those opportunities, it also just helps them to learn better and to see what they're learning in a different light. One example is like in American Studies, whenever we're learning about a specific movement in history or even like events leading up to a point, like Mr. Frey shows us the art that the people and the society is like growing up with. One example would be like Nazi Germany and the art that they were exposed to, like kind of gave a bigger picture for how they got to the point where Hitler was dictator. And so that just helped me to like kind of understand, and it wasn't just like this happened and this is where World War II happened, but it was just a bigger picture. So I think having an arts integrated curriculum is important regardless of whether you have an arts department or program in place.
Great. And what about the home life element as well, integrating art within home life?
I think that is very important as well. I specifically talk about it in schools because most of the children that attend public schools might not have opportunities to create at home, but I think creating by yourself, like at home, is important because in the art classroom, there's a lot of opinions that are, being thrown around the room, like critique. That's important, but there's also a time where you need to kind of reflect on it by yourself and create by yourself, and maybe not even show people what you create, but it's just important for development in that way.
Thank you.
Mr. Armarina?
Thank you, Rachel. Rachel, what would you say to someone who is currently reflecting on their lack of artistic training and maybe wants to do something about it but isn't sure what?
Yeah. think it's important to just like try to create. There's a lot of different forms of art, so while you may not be like comfortable with painting, you can try something else, just like sketching, or even like music or theater or poetry. There's all different kinds of forms of art that you can try, but it's important to just kind of overcome that initial barrier of like, you know, I don't know how to create, I'm a bad artist, but you just need to like overcome that. And then I think you'll become more comfortable with the art that you kind of relate with most.
Thank you for the encouragement, I'm also wondering if it's true that there might be some summer art camp or something that you're hosting that students could attend to learn this kind of thing, even if they don't know much about it right now.
Yeah, you're right. If anyone wants to have a little art workshop this summer, come talk to me. I can give you some more details on that. So I would encourage everyone, including you, Ms. Schoenberg.
Yeah.
Mr. Anson?
Thanks, Rachel. It occurred to me while you were speaking that the idea of wonder might be a sort of bridging concept that links the fine arts, literature, science, and even math together in a way. And I'm curious if you think whether or not we pay sufficient attention to the idea of cultivating wonder in a classroom setting.
Yeah. Specifically at JPG, I think we do. I've just the way that the teachers teach, and they they teach us how to learn, not the things to learn. And a very important part of learning includes wonder. So just like wondering about things, things that you want to learn about in a specific subject. That's very important for like actually retaining information and learning about it rather than just getting information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any senior questions?
Miguel?
Thank you, Rachel. So, in Isabella's, or echoing Isabella's capstone, we live in a work-saturated country. And so, I'm wondering how we can be persuaded to create art whenever it appears that there's no benefit in creating art.
I would argue that there is a lot of benefit in creating art and just helping people to understand that, because like you said, as a society, and that's shown in like the education system and the lack of arts in the education system, as a society we do not value the arts. So I think if people learn more about the arts and more like specifically talking about the individual level, like you need to know what kind of art is best for you, and that can only happen through experimenting. Because like while I might like painting more, you might like drawing more. And so if you keep trying to paint, you might not get as much benefit from it as you would drawing. But it's just important to experiment with the different modes of art.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.